It's time for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, the show that helps you be prepared to care for your family regardless of the circumstances that may come your way. Now, here's your host for today, Mark Lamb.
Well, we're back again with Glenn, and you and I, sometimes we'll talk about what we're going to talk about, and then sometimes we just talk about everyday life and construction and stuff. And construction is the three-headed beast. They cut one head off, two more grow back. It's crazy.
3 times the amount of work in a remodel project. Yeah, that's for sure.
Isn't that the truth? So what do you got on your plate today, bud?
Well, everybody bought all these chicks this spring and been feeding them all summer long, going, where's my eggs? Mm-hmm. Today's the day.
Today's the day, okay.
So that you bought, 15 chickens and they all started laying at once. Now you got 15 eggs a day. What do you do with all that?
Yeah, well.
Eat a lot of eggs, a lot of souffle. And, So people are looking how to store these things. Well, as long as your egg's fairly clean and you haven't washed them, they'll sit right on your counter. Do you know that? They have it's called a bloom. It's a powdery coating on the egg when it's laid that protects that egg. But if you wash it off, bacteria can now get into your egg.
How about that?
And you have to refrigerate it. You really shouldn't have to refrigerate fresh eggs. Now, if it's got poop on it or mud on it because the chicken went in there with dirty feet, yeah, just wash it and put it in the refrigerator and use it up within a week or so. But how do you store them long term? Mm-hmm. I don't know if we've talked about that before.
I don't believe we have.
One method, and it was used for a long time. I reached it one time, and it goes back to Egyptians actually stored the eggs like this.
Wow.
And it's called glassing eggs. They didn't use it in glass, of course. They had pottery.
Right.
But it's a pickling lime in a quart of water.
Okay.
And the pickling lime is actually calcium hydroxide. It's very alkaline, changes the pH very high, so kills most bacteria, and that's what keeps it from allowing bacteria to get into water and blah, blah, blah. Of course, you have to have a lid on it.
Right.
But they should keep for months that way.
Interesting.
Now, if you open that jar and you go, whoa, I smell something bad.
Right.
You've lost a whole jar of eggs.
Oh, boy.
Because the bacteria's gotten in it.
Okay.
And you probably didn't put in enough of the lime,
right?
The pickling lime to keep the bacteria out. Or you may have not had clean eggs. That was the other thing I just missed. Yeah, you don't want to put one in there. It's got a big gob of poop on the side there, folks. Of course not. So nice clean eggs in there, and a gallon jar, I think holds like 2.5 dozen eggs.
Oh my gosh!
So if you got an even bigger jar and you put one in there that's contaminated right off the bat, you've lost them all.
Okay.
My suggestion is just stick with the large gallon jugs where you can get your hand in there easily.
Right.
Setting them in is a kind of a trick. A wooden spoon does real good.
So
just set it on the wooden spoon, touch the edge of the lip or the opening, and just slide it down the side and gently lay it into the water. You can't drop the eggs into the water. This is not the penny drop at the hardware store. These are eggs.
Right.
So, if you've cracked one, you got to start all over.
Right.
You got to take them out, wash them off, do it again, blah, blah, blah. So it's a little trick to get them in there and just a little common sense and gently lay these eggs in there and they'll last for months.
Okay.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Because in wintertime, especially this time of year where the sun is changing, the light is changing.
Yeah, where it's hitting and stuff.
And there's a little gland in that chicken's little pea brain that says winter's coming, and they go through a change, and they may slow down laying eggs.
Right.
By full-time winter, and egg laying takes a lot out of the bird, so they slow down, and you may only get half as amount.
Okay.
You may not get any, depending on what breed of chicken it is, blah, blah, blah. But if you store up enough now, that'll carry you through the winter months. You know, and that's what we're talking about, a sustainable supply.
Gotcha.
Well, your sustainable supply does not mean every day.
Sure.
It just means you have enough to carry you through a lean time or a lack of egg-laying chickens for that month or two.
Okay.
But they usually take right back off as soon as the light changes again. You know, they're like a photo cell in their little brains.
How about that?
But back to the glassing of the eggs, 1 ounce of pickling lime per quart of water.
Okay.
And that'll keep the alkaline up and keep the bacteria out. So that's how we're going to do your eggs. That lasts about 18 months.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
That's a good while, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're hoarding up eggs and your neighbor runs out, you go, I got plenty of eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And you can possibly trade off. Make sure I didn't miss nothing here. Oh, of course, cool, dry place. Cool is the key.
Okay.
Stable temperatures. You don't want temperatures going up and down anytime you store food.
Okay.
Stable temperatures is a trick. And in the dark.
All right.
Everything kind of grows in the sunlight, you know. So keep them in the dark, and they should be fine up to 18 months.
Okay.
Tip of the day.
Yeah.
My favorite subject next would be water.
Water. Okay. Yeah.
Water everywhere, not a drop to drink because it's probably contaminated. But how do you store that water? You can store it in a gallon jug if you want, you know, as long as it's a food grade gallon jug. The plastic milk jugs are okay, but they tend to degrade.
Mm-hmm.
I like something a little heavier and larger.
Okay.
A 5-gallon bucket, if that's all the room you got to store some water. Why am I storing water? Well, power goes out or crap happens.
Right.
You know, that may be your lifeline.
True.
So storing water. How do we keep that water from becoming contaminated? Well, you start out with nice clean water. You know, if you have a well that you know that doesn't have bad stuff in it, and if you haven't had your well tested in several years, you might want to do that because groundwater does change. The aquifer may have gotten contaminated through construction in your area, not just your neighbor, but in your area.
Sure.
And it's,
That's
you know,
pretty
this place
easy.
is booming. Yeah, and you just take a water sample and go to one of these places. The health department does it, but they're just not the easiest people to deal with. So there's lots of people that'll test your water.
Okay.
So have your water tested, make sure it doesn't have any bacteria and things in it, and so you can feel safe and confident. Bleach, sodium hypochlorite or calcium hypochlorite. That kills 99.9% of bacteria that would be in there.
Okay.
So how much? Well, it's 1 teaspoon per 5-gallon bucket. I stored in a 55-gallon drum, so the ratio is a little different, but still, what's it taste like afterward? Does it, taste stale and nasty? No. I tried it for a year, had a barrel of water.
Okay.
At the end of the year, I looked under a microscope with a single drop out of that barrel because I didn't want to test it the old-fashioned way of drinking it because it might have been bad.
Right.
Sniff test first. It smelled clean. I said, okay, let's see what the microscope says, and looked under and didn't see nothing swimming in there and nothing that I couldn't identify. And I go, okay, that works. Well, let's just leave it in for a second year. 2 years later, same test, still clean. And these are all food-grade barrels with good seals. It actually tasted fresh, which I found kind of shocking. Now, if you have an open container or one that doesn't have a good seal on the lid, your bleach, your chlorine will go out of that. It will evaporate out. So it's important to have it so it's sealed. Things with metal lids, chlorine will cause rust spots in it. And most of those type of lids that go on a larger jug have a coating on them. So that may be all right, may not. I suggest plastic on plastic.
Okay.
Food grade, 5-gallon bucket, 55-gallon drum. You can find these things online. There's a guy that comes around our area with a big load of them, and he sells them. Now, they may have pickle juice in it, or they may
Right.
have something from the food grade industry.
Right.
You just wash them out, clean them out, put a little bleach in them, let them stay there for about a week or so, dump it out, give it a good washing again, do that a couple times until it has no more smell.
Okay.
If you got one that has a little more difficult smell, like a garlic, I got a barrel that had garlic in it.
Oh, wow.
It took
Okay.
a while to get rid of that garlic,
Sure.
but I had someone tell me the secret to do that.
Okay.
And that was a handful of powdered charcoal.
Interesting.
It absorbs all the smells.
Yeah.
And you still let it in there a week, and boom, it was gone. I couldn't believe it. Garlic. I'm thinking there's some guys that need a spoonful of that every morning. We'll let that go.
Okay.
All right, so you're going to put in a teaspoon in a 5-gallon bucket, and for like a gallon jug, like 5 drops from a dropper. But I don't know too many people that go, "Oh, I've got a dropper right here." That's not an item you have. So a teaspoon to a 5-gallon bucket. If you get a teaspoon and a half, it's not going to kill you, folks.
Right.
All right, so let's step up
You've
a
probably
little.
swallowed some
Yeah.
pool water
Well,
before,
if you're on town water,
They can kill you?
you've
Oh,
drank
my gosh.
much more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about that before, too.
All right, so let's jump up to a little larger size of,
Okay.
of like a 55-gallon drum. A quarter cup, that's all you need, of liquid bleach. Now, this is just bleach. This is not the kind with the little flowers on the label that smells like, springtime. Your water's going to taste like soap. If you get that unscented bleach, which no such thing, but they just covered it up with some perfume.
Right.
That's what's going to be in your water. You don't want that. Just
Right.
get the pure bleach, the cheap bleach,
Okay.
and that's what you can use. There's also bleach doesn't last forever. A gallon jug of bleach, of pure bleach, will last probably 2 to 3 years, and it'll start breaking down, and you'll lose the potency of it. So knowing that, you either have to store a lot and resupply what you have and change it out, or you can get dry bleach, and it's pure sodium chlorate. Comes in a powder form or a tablet form,
Okay.
and it's pool shock. Now again, turn the thing over, look at the label, and that's all that should be in there. Nothing else. No caking agents, none of that kind of stuff. Just pure sodium hyperchlorate or calcium hyperchlorate. Now, depending on what you've purchased, to make your own bleach. That's what we're doing here. We're going to make our own bleach. And I'd go online, just download the little chart, because depending on how much concentrate you want, and so on, just look it up, get the chart, print it off, and stick it to your barrel.
Okay.
You'll always know where it's at.
Yeah.
Same way with the liquid bleach. On the side of my barrel is exactly how much to do it, because, life gets busy. You can't remember all these numbers.
Yeah.
Kind of like your passwords. You go, crap, what was my password last year?
Right.
It's just hard. It's hard to remember all that.
Right.
So write it down, stick it on there, and you'll have it forever. Better yet, people walk by and go, what's that? Then you can tell them, because it's right there. They can snap a picture, and
Right.
they'll be educated on storing water.
And the breakdown of the powdery chemicals, as long as you keep it again in a dry place, and
Right.
those kind of things.
It is chemically reactive, so you want it. They usually come in a little airtight plastic container, and they last a long time. You don't want moisture getting to it, that kind of thing. So cool, dry place. That's my favorite thing, cool, dry places. Again, make sure that that's the only thing in there. No ammonias, no caking agents, that kind of stuff. So how much water do you actually need? We've talked about it before, but it's worth talking about again. 3/4 of a gallon per day is what you should be having. If you wonder why most people have problems, medical problems, it's because they're not hydrated. Everybody drinking sodas and coffee. I
Right.
drink my share of coffee, but I also drink my share of water.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually going to be working, you're going to drink a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, I think people ought to stop drinking sodas. It's horrible for you.
Yeah, it's not good.
I'm not going to tell people to quit drinking coffee because the world would go berserk every Monday morning,
True.
but including me. So, but you need to have that water. You need to be flushing the bad stuff out of your body,
Right.
and that's what it's designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, drink more water. It's not the most fabulous drink out there, but it's the best drink for you. So, be drinking your water. If you start doing calculations, a gallon a day, it's just easy math.
Right.
Gallon a day, 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
The end of the week, you go the end of the month. How much water did you just go through? And this is just drinking water, folks.
Right.
We're not talking about what you used for cooking,
Mm-hmm.
cleaning,
Right.
bathing, washing clothes.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, water comes, pretty important.
Sure.
Whenever there's any kind of conflict around the world, first thing they start shipping out is pallets of water. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Army, big time on water.
Yeah.
I can remember many a time on some hike, and they go, stop, everybody stop, right down to your captain. Everybody drink right now. And I thought, gosh, I've been drinking the whole time, but it doesn't matter. If you've ever been really dehydrated, that is super bad on your body.
Mm-hmm.
If you lose enough water where you've quit sweating, you're in trouble. You're real close to a heat stroke.
Mm.
So, here it is nice and cool out here. You can still get dehydrated. You're out there splitting wood all afternoon, and
Right.
you're expiring that water, perspiring that water, and you don't realize you've lost it because it's cool out.
Sure.
Well, you go inside, you go, gosh, my throat is dry.
Mm-hmm.
If your throat is dry, you are dehydrated. Not getting dehydrated.
You're
you
there.
are dehydrated.
Okay.
So water. Drink plenty of it. I don't know what people are going to actually do if we have a major natural disaster where we lose our water. And it's highly possible. I mean, power goes out for an X number of times. You're just not going to have water because it's all run by pumps.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So your faucet's going to stop working. So,
Yep.
storing this water is pretty darn important, folks. So even if you go, I got town water, I don't have to worry about my well, I don't have to worry about electricity, blah, blah, blah. Well, that is not so. So just don't be the one out in the chaos, because it will be chaos.
Right.
Water will drive people to do silly things. They'll walk across the desert to get to water, if they make it.
If they make it.
So I don't want you to be those people that are into chaos.
Yeah.
Of trying just to find something so simple that you could have stored by the gallon.
Sure. Well, and
Gather
I think
it up.
most people know that when you go to Sam's, for example, and there's a pending storm, and people are loading it up.
Yeah. It used to be just eggs and milk. Now it's eggs, milk, and water.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good thing to have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Critical. All right. The other thing, let's say you do have a minor disaster and it takes our power out or whatever. Your stove doesn't work unless you got propane, but it probably won't work then. You know why? Most of the igniters on the stove are run by electricity.
True.
And you go, son of a gun. So you
True.
got to break out the grill lighter and light it each time. But, that's not the safest thing to do either. But regardless of that, we're getting ready to talk about just cooking without the use of electricity. I mean, cooking's pretty simple. All you need is a heat source. You could have 3 rocks on the ground, throw your grill on it and a couple sticks, and you've got enough heat to cook on. You don't need some roaring fire to actually cook with. Low heat is plenty.
Right.
So
Well, those flash, what do they call those flash cookers or whatever?
rocket stoves.
Rocket stoves.
You're getting ahead of me, Mark.
I'm sorry.
Since you let the cat out of the bag, I'll tell you about the rocket stove. Thank you, Mark. Rocket stoves are pretty much just a straight chimney. Very short
Yeah.
chimney, but still just a straight chimney. Just kind of a 90-degree, 6-inch tube that you can, stack rocks around, stack dirt around, stack block around,
Right.
just so you don't get burnt, and holds it up there, and you can do it very quickly. Or you can purchase a rocket stove, which is a darn good idea. Now those
I
things,
did. You'd be proud of me.
but you did.
Since I started helping you with this show, I went ahead and got one.
They're cool, man. They'll
I haven't
fire-
used it yet, but
They'll fire up a jug of water or a pan of water, a pan of water in just a little bit of no time.
Right.
I took a whole canner full of blue canner that you would can food in, and I think it's 4.5 gallons. 3 minutes with a rocket
Wow.
stove. Boiling water in 3 minutes. That's faster
Yeah.
than your propane stove.
sure.
The flip side of that is you got to get used to that intense heat. If you run it wide open, it's going to burn wide open.
Yeah, and it's burning fast.
If you restrict the oxygen going in, it slows it down, and that's what you would want to cook on.
Right.
But if you're just trying to boil water or cook soup or whatever, it's just the amount of fuel and the amount of oxygen. That's 2 things you have to learn to control.
Right.
There's no on-off switch on a rocket stove. There's no knob that you can turn down to a low setting. It's how much fuel you're feeding into that stove.
Right.
And it could be just twigs.
Right.
And just continually feed them slow. Sit there and cook, bacon and eggs.
Yeah.
If you run it wide open, throw a bunch of stuff in there, you're going to burn your bacon and eggs. That's the point. All right. So that's kind of one of the simpler things to do. People have been cooking over an open campfire for a long time. It's learning to control that heat. If I'm going to cook over an open fire or a pit fire, I like to get a good hot fire going and just pull some of the coals to one side. I'm just going to cook over that little small pile of hot coals, and it's enough heat to regulate. If you need more heat, you pull a few more coals.
Okay.
There's lots of ways to do this, but you have to have some form or fashion of something to sit pots and things on. You can go online and see cowboy kitchens. Have you ever looked those up?
I think I did
I
once.
think we looked them up once
Yeah.
before.
I did.
We did a little demonstration, and I've got one of these cowboy kitchen setups, and there's a million ways to design them, but you just steal the idea and do it to match what you have,
to fit
materials
your-
wise.
right.
Or if you got a buddy that's good at metalworking, you could bang out one, or you just stay real simple. Second thing you want to do is block any wind. If you're cooking outside on the ground in a pit or around a campfire, is to block the wind so the ashes don't roll into your scrambled eggs, because
Right.
it's not real tasty. Sometimes it adds flavor,
Right.
as they say. I don't know why that tasted so good. Well, it's got a bunch of ashes in it.
Right.
Give it a little kick. But if you can't control the wind,
Right.
and you're going to have to cook every day. Storm outage, and you may be outside in the snow cooking. Who knows? But because storms don't tell you when they're coming, they just kind of show up and knock your power out, and you go, okay, now I got to make do. Well, this is one of the ways that you can make do. You're going to not stop eating, and beans are terrible cold, in my opinion. It's hard to fry bacon
Right.
if you don't have a way to fry it, and bacon makes everybody happy. So
Oh, it does.
if you have a way to cook, and it would definitely benefit you, make your experience a little better. It's not going to make it good, just better. So you can get through these hard times or a bad storm. I don't know how some people are going to make it because they just panic over the least little thing and run to the motel. I'll just go get a motel, eat at some restaurant. Well, what if it's the East Coast? You're going to have a hard time doing that. Some of these storms that are coming in are getting kind of big.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of sneaked by this year. We really didn't have the terrible hurricane seasons that we normally have, but it ain't over.
No, it's not.
It is not over, so it can still come in.
Nor'eastern came through and ended up hitting a lot further north than they predicted.
Yeah.
And it's got some flooding going on.
It come through and dumped, and thank goodness it was rain, not January and snow.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we get
sure.
them bad nor'easters. But if you're going to lose that power, you better be prepared to muddle through it. And if everybody's muddling through it, there's no one to help you.
Right.
There is no motel to go to. If it's, it'll take out a large area if one of these big storms take out one of our infrastructures.
Sure.
So having that ability to cook and heat water and things like that, because otherwise you won't have no coffee. And everybody knows that's a bad day. Mama is not happy if she has not had her coffee this morning.
This is true.
So look up these cowboy kitchens, though. They are so neat. Some of these guys are real inventive.
Very creative.
Yeah, really neat. And they've been going on, for forever. It's the same setup, from 5,000 years ago.
Yep.
Now, you can get creative, make a pizza oven if you want. That's a big thing nowadays. Backyard pizza ovens.
Yeah.
You seen them, the little
the fire ovens and stuff.
Yeah, and they work great, but there's a lot of work to them,
Sure.
To build them. You got to get somebody that knows how to do it, but they do work great.
Yeah.
They use up wood just like everything else,
Right.
folks. So where are you going to get all that wood?
Mm-hmm.
You might want to consider just having a little wood pile.
Yeah.
And a good axe. And if you're any good with the axe, no problem. If not, get Band-Aids too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suggest if you're splitting kindling, you ever split kindling as a kid or as an adult?
More as an adult than a kid, but...
We always had a wood stove.
Okay.
Mama was always cooking something on that wood stove, and she always wanted kindling where she could reach down and grab some good fine split kindling to start her wood stove. So that was my job.
Okay.
At 6 years old, I got a hatchet in my hand. It was like a razor because my dad kept everything sharp.
Really sharp. Okay.
Now, I've got a scar, one. Now I'm a believer in wearing that glove, even if it's just a leather glove.
Right.
Because you get tired, you miss a step, it skips off, and you cut a finger right off, no problem.
Yeah.
If you're swinging it too hard, then you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Just splitting kindling, having a box ready, so for that emergency. And you wouldn't believe how much kindling you can go through if you are not practiced at it. Don't burn up all your kindling. It takes too long to split it. So all you need is a very small fire to get a big fire going.
Right, sure.
So kindling, something straight grains. You don't want to try to chop on something like a piece of maple to make kindling out of it. It's just too hard to split.
Right.
So there are woods out there, a 2x4. They're fast-growing trees. It's out of pine. They start real easy. That's a good thing.
I was going to say pine.
Yeah, so I just cut little small blocks of wood and then split it out of it and get a whole bucket full of it, and it lasts me darn near, a month or two of steadily burning and starting fire. So a little bit to the techniques of it and splitting wood. If you've never split wood, you need to experience it. Depending on what kind of wood you've got is how hard you're going to work.
Right.
If you've got a really tough wood, like a red oak or something like that, let the frost get in it. If you got some big pieces that you need to bust really, really easily, if it's frozen, the water's going to do half the work for you. The moisture in there is going to swell.
And split it up a little.
Yeah, and that thing's going to want to bust on its own.
Right.
It used to amaze me to just drop an axe on a piece of red oak and hear it go pop. Now, in the summertime, if you tried to did that, you'd have to beat that thing half to death to get a piece off of it.
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and go through every, species of wood and how to use them. Kind of stay away from pine if you're burning in a wood stove or
because
of the creosote. It builds up in oil and soot, and that and that goes to cleaning your chimneys and little safety things that we've gone over before. But having a good pile of dry wood is better.
Mm-hmm.
Dry wood will put out more BTUs. You won't use as much,
right?
Because it just burns hotter because it doesn't have to evaporate the water first. So that's a good thing. Good pile of stockpile of wood covered up so it's in the dry. So if it happens, when it happens, you'll have it.
Okay.
We go over rocket stoves, fire pits. You ever see go to any of these rendezvous or blacksmith demonstration where they make all the fire tools for these cowboy kitchens? I went to one when I was just a kid, and the blacksmith was there, and he was making all kinds of cool stuff, and it was amazing all the little stuff that he made for these cowboy kitchens, and you can get them online now, and I'm pretty sure they probably come from China or some guy with a mechanical way of making it. Yeah, a blacksmith didn't do it. That's my point. But at my house, I pull out my anvil and I make my stuff.
Yeah.
Just because I can. It's a cool thing to do, and I wanted to learn that skill, and I did.
Yeah.
So whether you're buying it, making it, winging it, or just 3 rocks on the ground, be able to cook and boil water. It's going to be important. And that's a short day. That's my whole thing for today.
Okay.
I got a lot of stuff to do. Winter's coming on, and I got wood to split.
Speaking of wood,
Yes, speaking of wood, I got wood to split. So that's it for today.
Okay, well, Glenn, let's give the folks a way to get a hold of you if they want to, have a question or a topic. We'll give you our text number first. Then he can give you the Facebook information, 434-248-0704. That's 434-248-0704 to send Glenn a question if they want to reach out to you on Facebook.
Sustainable Living Made Easy by Glenn Boblitz. Just look me up, and you'll be able to ask me questions, and I'll answer them just as quick as I can.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Join us again next week for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, helping you be prepared and not scared. This podcast drops every Friday anywhere you get your podcast.